Welcome to House Rule, a podcast about role-playing. I am one of your hosts, Ed.
I'm Ebo.
This is Jeff.
I'm Lee.
I'm Richard.
Aww. So
I'm
nice
the
to have
other
you all
illustrious
here.
host. Everyone else is a regular host.
Yeah, their luster levels are not quite up to snuff.
They could really work on that. I actually bought luster wax the other day, and
How much did that cost you?
I don't know, like $20-$30.
Yeah, Ebo's got a lot of carrots, but the clarity, not so good.
It might be
Yeah.
out of that wax.
That's understandable. It's happened before.
That's some nice wax. That's
Is
quality
a
product.
highly reflective. Never mind. Anyway,
Okay, guys. We have some important business to talk about
Yes.
It's very
in this
important.
time. Much more important than our grooming habits and such. It's all about Eclipse Phase today. More particularly, we have all perused the newest Eclipse Phase book, Transhuman Eclipse Phase Player's Guide,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got some stuff in there.
It is thick with delicious meat for you to eat if you like to eat books.
Yes, in a manner of speaking, that is true.
It's got a lot of information in it.
I'm
also.
not calling you a liar.
So yeah, this is just like a general purpose player's guide. Gives you additional options for your character, stuff like that. Just that sort
What
of
does
thing.
it have, you ask?
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
multiple alternative ways to create your character.
Which is super useful for Eclipse Phase.
Additional morphs. Alternate ways of doing different roles, including like speed. I think initiative is in there. It talks a little bit about muses. It talks about forking and a bunch of other different things that I'm not going to list the entire book.
Yeah, it's
for
got a
you.
lot of it's got a lot of really crunchy stuff in it. So far, most of the source books that have come out for Eclipse Phase have been, I would say, a little bit more on the setting / genre establishment side.
Fluffy books.
Well, I mean, I would call
Books
them
made of
like a
cloud
typical
stuff.
source book. Throughout most of the games I've ever read, most books will wind up being like, they give you something to gnaw on, and then they give you the rules you need to adjust to that stuff. Transhuman takes it a lot more. It basically gets at the root of the mechanics of the game. It answers a lot of questions that might have haunted players. For instance, how do flex bots work? And that sort of stuff.
Valuable questions.
It gives you a lot
don't know
more
how they work.
game rule information for a wide variety of things, and just a lot of ways to make your games potentially more fun.
It reminded me a lot of like a APG or a player's guide 2 type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the APG.
Yeah.
It's got new traits in it.
It's got new traits,
Different
new backgrounds.
factions, I think. Yep, backgrounds.
New morphs? Oh, the morphs are so cool.
The morphs are really cool, and they added a bunch of
I,
different options.
As far as the crunch goes, I spent most of my time that I was reading crunch, which was pretty limited. I actually spent most of my time reading the fluffy stuff. But I actually perused the morphs for a pretty significant amount of time and found them. Well, they were not lacking. There are a pretty significant amount of cool morphs in there. Which,
yeah,
you know,
I'd say
I like that.
for starters, the physical, I say with air quotes, the physical item itself is an extremely high quality book with a
Air
lot.
quotes book.
Well, yeah, I mean we are all reading it in digital form, but yeah, it's like a huge amount of new artwork. It's
Yep.
really nice, fairly easy to digest, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The artwork's really cool.
Yeah, I was really
PDF is,
excited about the new art.
The PDF is as well organized as the regular Eclipse Phase book, maybe probably better.
Not only
But yeah, it is thick. It's over 300 pages, right?
No, I don't remember. lost count
It's-
somewhere in there.
Let's see.
It's also free.
It's
Yeah,
almost
200.
250 pages.
What's
Oh,
up
it's-
with
okay.
that? Like, was this like Kickstarter funded or something?
Yep.
Okay.
They
But
we will
all
actually
their
post
books are
a
free.
link for people to download it when we post this this podcast up. That you'll probably find in the description area.
It's a little difficult to find.
It is not super easy. We know we got your back. You should definitely get
The
this
idea
book.
is it's free, but they obviously prefer you to buy it.
Yeah.
Of which I bought the copy of the normal Eclipse Phase book, and it's really handy to have a book. right
Yeah.
next
Yeah,
to you
this
instead of
this
a
is
PDF.
definitely not a standalone book. I mean, everything in
Sure.
it is referring back to. I mean, not everything, but a lot of this is referring back to the original book.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've already invested if this book is going to do anything for you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
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 Sorry,
But
go on.
beyond just the aesthetics of it, the first 2 chapters are occupied by alternate character creation systems, which it's something that I think maybe a lot of the fans of Eclipse Phase were asking for. It was not a blip on my radar. It did not occur to me that the character creation ought to be fixed, which I think probably belies the fact that we haven't actually played too many actual sessions of it. But I think that the first one of the character creation alternate systems that they hit upon, which they call packages, I really, really like it. I would say tentatively probably more than the standard character creation method.
Packages are really cool.
It's basically, instead of taking a pool of points, you take you use the selections that were kind of secondary in the original game, like your I wouldn't say secondary, but like your background and your faction and your basically just other kind of character background details, things like, you know, ways you would otherwise just call focuses of your character, like I want him to be an army sniper, or I want him to be a media gadfly, or something like that. And you pick a selection of those things and apply points to them, and it basically gives you a distribution of skills and other characteristics appropriate for that use.
Yeah, it's basically like a class system for this game, and it has all the things that you would have done if you were trying to make that character possibly anyways, but it's got it all in a nice little package.
Well, one of the cool things that I thought was that you're required to have one background and one faction, but you can have, I think focus is the other one, and then there's also customization.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like an extra one. But the 2 main ones are backgrounds and factions, and you get multiple of those, which is different, I believe, than the normal book. I don't think you could actually take multiple backgrounds or factions.
There was nothing in the original book for taking multiple.
But you can have upwards of, I think, 3 backgrounds.
Well,
and
you
factions
can.
each. The points are, I mean, it's not limited like that, but
I mean, you can spend. Generally, I think it's 1, 3, or 5 points on a given package, depending on the category.
yeah.
And so you can take a lot of different backgrounds at low to mid point levels if you want to have a character who has just been out there and experienced a lot of things. You might fall behind in certain areas, but again, if there are certain advantages to having a wide variety of skills, and if you take fewer different background or faction packages, you can further customize. Like, they have a series of 1-point customization packages that are basically you forgot that you want your character to be able to use a bazooka, and so you take heavy weapons customization package.
Yeah.
Usually,
Or-
if I'm,
or
good,
there-
if
I
I'm
think
planning
there's
on using a
one
bazooka,
that's
that's the first thing I buy.
There's one for common skills. If you have gotten through this and you realize, none of these packages have fray, which I will want to use to get my head out of the way of people's
So,
weapons. And so,
a quick breakdown of the packages is you get 10 points. Backgrounds are, I believe, 1, 3. They can be 1, 3, or 5 PP package points. They cost.
I'm too juvenile for this.
Yeah.
PP.
Let's just say PP.
Okay.
Everybody's going to giggle.
Faction itself is 1 or 3, and then focus is 1, 3, or 5, and customization points are 1 apiece. There's also they have additional rules where you can swap. If there's something that you don't want, you can just swap it 1 for 1 with something else. Or if you already have something, you swap its points for another thing. So if you're stuck with, like, you have 3 phrase for something that gives you like way too many phrase, you can swap phrase for something else.
So it basically kind of boils down to the spending the 1,000 points, except you have a starting point, and then you can kind of modify it.
Yep.
So
yes, aptitudes are also taken into account in that, where they have like 6 or 8 or 10 or something different amounts of aptitudes that you can have. I don't remember the name of them, but they have like Brinker, I think might be one of them, and some other ones like that. And then they're just different aptitude points, like 10, 15, 20, and then random amounts. And then you just pick one, then you have all of your aptitudes set, and then you can start buying your using your package points.
So does a package point equal a certain amount of points in the 1,000?
Package points are designed to give you an amount of skills and other statistics roughly in line with the 1,000 character point system. Although I do believe it stipulates that there's something like, I can't remember how many.
It was 80.
There's like extra points in there that they say if you want to combine some characters using package points, some characters using character points, the character point people will get a couple extra points because the packages come out to be worth more, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 80 points that you get. So if you use your 10 package points, you get 80 bonus points if you didn't use packages.
Sure.
Got it.
And that actually seems kind of like weird to me, because when I was looking at it, I was first overjoyed by a simpler way to make an Eclipse Phase character. But then when I started thinking about it, I'm like, well, if I can kind of tool everything out exactly the way I want it anyway, I'll probably just end up doing that instead of buying a bunch of random crap.
When I looked at this, I was like, when Evo told me about this, because he looked far before I did, my first thought was, well, now that I've already done it the other way, I don't need that. But on the other hand, when I looked at it, and I walked myself through the process, once, twice, etc. I was like, oh, there are things that I was missing. Like my character didn't have this skill that he needs to survive, or I didn't have free falling, and I can't imagine now making a character who has no free falling, because that character is gonna die one day because of it.
The thing I really like about the package system, as opposed to the character point system, is that it adds context to all of the things you're taking.
Yeah.
It's harder. I mean, I think that my idea of how to make an Eclipse Phase character before, granted, I've read a lot more of the different source books that talk about the setting, but I feel like you miss a little bit of the setting and the context that the characters are living in with the standard method, where you're essentially giving your character two traits, 3 if you count the starting morph as one of the characteristics, and you have like your faction and your background, and that's basically how you're defining your character. But you have all of these different skill choices, some of which are going to suggest exactly what your background and faction are, and some of which are going to be like personal kind of customization choices. But with the package system, it's like you can make those same or at least similar choices by picking specific background and focus packages that suggest what you want your character's life to have been like and what you want his experiences to be like. Basically, it adds another layer of significance to those skill selections beyond just saying like, well, I sure would like extra clubs.
Yeah. Well, like when you go and you think I need heavy weapons, and you pick the heavy weapons group, focus as part of your package, you're going like, when I picked a variety of things on my character, I didn't immediately think of how did my character get that specifically, But like you pick the heavy weapons group, you'll think, well, how did my character get heavy weapons? Like, why is this upwards of a tenth of his points?
Yeah. That was mainly what I liked about it, was that I feel just in general, having more than one background and more than one faction is cool.
And that exact feeling is super appropriate for Eclipse Phase, because they keep going on about how it's like super crunchy yet still extremely narrative despite that.
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
one thing that I think really stands out about making the game unique, and they're just playing off of that.
For sure. I think that is one of the things that when I think about it compared to other systems, that's one of the things that like pops into my head immediately. And adding more character creation options that definitely they reinforce that, I think, was definitely a good step, and one I hadn't really considered when I had originally heard about the book. Like Ed said, it didn't even really pop into my brain because I was already used to the one way.
Yeah.
There is another way to make characters in this book.
Yeah, I was just about to segue. They have a second chapter about alternate character creation rules, which is a little bit, I wouldn't call it as surefire as the package.
Boy. It's a little random.
It's called life paths, which is something that will be familiar. I'm pretty sure life paths were something that was in the popular sci-fi role-playing game Traveler, which I have not personally played, but I have perused it just to see what this life path thing was all about.
I was going to say
past.
Burning Wheel.
Burning Wheel has life paths, but they're much more like packages in terms of Eclipse Phase.
Sure.
Because you pick them, whereas this and its predecessor Traveler have basically a series of tables on which you roll dice to generate the circumstances of your character's life to date. What this system presupposes is, and this is something that I never have right in the front of my mind, is that most of these characters were born before the fall, the apocalyptic event in the game's backstory, and so it usually incorporates some measure of before, during, and after the fall are all kind of established in the various tables. You get a series of, this system harkens directly back to the package character creation system. You basically get a series of packages based on the rolls on these tables. A couple of other characteristics will pop up based on randomly determined life events. Some of them are positive and some of them are negative.
Yeah.
And you will thus wind up with a character who is unique, to say the very least. Well, you'll get a character who is meant to seem like a lived-in sort of person. Like this person has had experiences, and they shaped what you will now be playing.
It's important to note that these life path characters are not balanced, though, at all.
Not strictly. I mean, they're not awful.
There's a little bit of balance, but the points do not equal out.
You can make a professional clown.
You can get more than 1,100 customization points worth of a character, and you can get less than 1,100 customization points of a
All
character.
this would be like super cool for an adventurous player or adventurous group of players. When I first started this, I was like, wow, that would be awesome to just like roll up an NPC, and then all of a sudden now you have an idea.
Yeah.
This sounds like a challenge, really, more than anything else. This is one of those ones where everybody wakes up and they don't know how they got where they got, and they are exactly what their character is
Also,
And
it gives you the option to like, oh, somebody's showing up for just today, huh? Well,
Yep.
throw a fistful of dice down, make your character, and then be like, here you go. You have a high life socialite who has a strong background in bazookas and knife fighting, and is also a compulsive gambler.
Much like the package system, one thing that we didn't stress on the package system is that there is some assembly required. You have to. The packages basically tell you what skills and other traits you have, but you, as Ebo mentioned, there's some combining or alternate selection. Like if you have two skills, two of the same skill from different packages, or life paths, as the case may be, you can um, you can either combine. Well, you can pick a different skill, or the rules seem to state that you can, with impunity, combine skills up to a level 60. But in the same breath, it also seems to say that you shouldn't. Like the writers didn't want you to, but they knew that players would say, well, we should be able to do this. Because you don't want to have every single skill at 30.
Yeah.
You'd like to have a couple of skills that are at least pretty beefy,
Yep.
I think.
It's like, I want to be good at something.
And so
a lot of those packages had like a lot of skills in them too, so they're gonna overlap.
right.
Yeah.
You know, so there has to be a solution to that.
And so in summation, I have taken this life path system out for a test drive, and I found that if you're just doing it on a lark, you want to look at which packages you have before you decide whether you want to actually bolt this character together. Because sometimes you're just like, this is rubbish. And it's a lot. It is a fair amount of actual doing once you have the life paths, but it's not nearly so exhaustive as the point spread of the standard character creation method, I would say.
Yeah.
That is true. So, on to the rest of the book before we have a special treat later.
Yes.
As I said before, I spent a pretty fair amount of time just reading about the things that interested me because
Mhm.
that's the sort of person I am, and I was actually really pleased with the way they expanded on and suggested role playing some of the more off the wall things in Eclipse Phase. Like one of the things that Eclipse Phase, like, it immediately grabbed me on a lot of really interesting concepts, but also it is hard to relate to the really crazy, like really crazy stuff that's in Eclipse Phase, like
Sure.
being a psionic person is having some sort of crazy virus in your brain that makes you see stuff, and
Yeah,
you know,
or if you're an uplifted animal, I mean,
exactly,
how
like,
do you even put that into context? You know what I mean? Like
it's
Born as
difficult
a
for a
whale.
person to play that.
I think
You
those
know?
two and the Info Life, they expanded the farthest from human a lot in this book.
Yeah, they did. And also the muse. I was really interested in the stuff they had about
They added some
muses,
new
which was
stuff.
really cool. And it was like when I don't know if everyone else has had this moment, but when I originally ran a game and then I went back and read the DMG, like reading that stuff gave me, like, I had context and it helped me out a lot, like, to understand how to run a game, that sort of thing. And in a similar sense, going through and reading the stuff about playing the sort of character that I had already made it put a lot of the choices I had sort of made in a little bit more context with the world, you know, and it made it sort of made my character that I had already made pop a little bit more for me. Like, I'm like, oh man, yeah, playing an async is really cool, and having a muse is really cool, and I have all these other ideas for that sort of thing now. I don't know. It was. I thought those sections in general were really interesting, and going through them for just about any character in the game could probably help a lot, just in terms of how to roleplay
Yeah.
and how to fit your character into the world, because it's pretty crazy out there.
They have some things about just like what the characters in Eclipse Phase will experience, like with machines that can make you anything that you download, and
Yeah.
limited scarcity. That's a weird phrase, but like, and just different ways to get along with what it is like to play a character in this bizarro setting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because it's not
No.
a perfect future. It's some
No.
things are fairly perfect, and other things are extremely limited. So you want to get a good feel for where the boundaries are in the world.
Sure, yeah, it's like, ooh, it is a hard setting to kind of get your head around, but it's, the more I read about it, the more I am into it. That's pretty
Yeah.
much where I'm at.
Going
it's
down the
not,
rabbit hole is very rewarding.
it's not just the setting either. I mean, there is a ton of options of things to do in Eclipse Phase, like in the original book. I almost wonder if this came out as a direct result of the first one just being so much like information that this kind of like starts to
Narrows
like,
it down a little bit.
Yeah,
for
it
you.
does. It simplifies certain concepts and things. The things that they probably had the most trouble with a new player, like the hurdles that they were having trouble getting over. Character creation. It was a lot of pencil marks erased, a lot of like math in your head and scribbling down, and your character sheet looks like something that you've been playing for like a year already by the time you're ready to start. And then but now it's like, hey, you just randomly make this character. You don't have to do all the same stuff. That everything will just fall into place, albeit a little messy. But and then of course with the packages, it just simplifies it, And then playing the characters, like they said, it's like things that it's hard to wrap your head around what it would be like to be. I think it was Jeff said, like a whale, being uplifted. I mean, who's ever thought about what it's like in the life of a whale, and then if they had the same IQ as a human being, that just, I mean, how do you even think like that, in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they really expanded in that section in a completely unique way. And now that I've been through it a little bit, like, whenever I make an Eclipse Phase character, I will want to peruse that section just because, I want to have a little bit of, a little bit more context for how those sorts of craziness fits into the world.
Well, it's really overwhelming, so something like this does help put everything together.
Yeah.
I was going to say, any options that you can get in this game are great. Like Ebo, he ran this one-shot that we played, and that was really fun, and then he sort of came back to us. He's like, so that was a one-shot where you guys were, part of this organization doing stuff on Mars. So there's a lot of other things you can do. What kind of game do you want to play? And when you start looking at the options, there are so many different kinds of games that you can play in this setting. So being able to make a character that could fit into any of those areas is really useful.
Yeah, there's aliens in this. There can be more aliens in this if you want them to.
Oh, come on, everyone loves the factors. You don't need anything but them.
Yeah, there's Pandora gates that allow you to go to different parts of the universe and galaxy.
Yeah, space travel in general. I mean, you can make up all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff.
There's 9 planets if you count the sun. There's moons.
Why not?
Asteroid. Well, they do count the sun. There apparently are morphs that live around the sun.
Oh, nice.
For sure.
You can. It's just there's so many things that I wouldn't even think of. Like I wouldn't be ambitious to play that you definitely can. You wouldn't think of until you're like, oh, I can be like, I can get a morph that allows me to fly in the super high gravity of gas giants and harvest their gases. And with the versatility of characters in Eclipse Phase, it's not like you want to make a game that's all about gas harvesting, but hey, maybe you have to harvest gas for some reason, so you have to track down a couple of morphs that can fly close enough to Jupiter to get your gases.
Yeah, exactly.
Swap out.
Like that's the sort of thing that can just happen.
When one body won't do the job, there's another body that will.
Like you could run a game where you have characters who are on Mars, and you need to deal with a problem that takes place in the ocean underneath the crust of Europa, and then you could literally beam their brains there, and then now you have to deal with swimming in sub-zero temperatures and possibly cold. Like, that's a thing. Like, that's so cool. But
It's
yeah.
it's not only a thing. It's like it's the default line in Eclipse Phase. A weirder game than that one would be a game where you're playing characters who actually have to physically fly a spaceship from one planet to another, but you can also do that. They have full support for playing a game of space truckers or people who
that
drive.
sounds fun now.
Yeah, I'm not saying
Western.
it doesn't.
Which you can.
Come back to the
Yes.
Space Western.
I think
Space
that is
pirates.
on its way, right? Space Western.
You can play Martian rednecks trying to
Yes,
maintain their
Martians.
autonomy from corporations and governments. They call them rednecks, and I think
They
that's
are,
hilarious.
of course, racist.
Oh, that would be an awesome game.
You could also
So-
play the corporations that are trained to
Yeah,
squish them.
you could play a really fun game about being an oppressive corporation.
I would.
Oh yeah,
you
living living in the Jovian Republic is completely different than living on
Absolutely.
Mars. And
I spent a long time reading about the Jovian Republic in Rimworld, which I think was the last book before Transhuman. And this was just before Transhuman was released that I was reading it so intently. And it's just like, yeah, in the core book, it does not come across how different a game set in the Jovian Republic would be. But there are tremendous differences.
Yeah.
And that's not just them. I mean, they're one important cog in the wheel, but, anywhere you go, like, a game set on Titan would be vastly different from a game set on Venus. And those settings are not fixed in any way. You can, for a relatively low cost, have your consciousness sent across the stars to another planet to inhabit a body temporarily or permanently, and just have different adventures there.
Yep.
It's not even limited to the planets that are here.
No, not even remotely.
And
And that's so cool. Like, that's one of the best things about Eclipse Phase is as much crunch as there is, like it supports the fluff stuff that's in there. Like they very much build on each other, and the Transhuman book I feel goes a long ways towards furthering that admittedly awesome relationship.
yeah, it does a lot. I think just the information, like the fluffy stuff, where they're just talking about what it is like to play different characters, really brings to light. Like when we did our one shot, I made a Infolife character, and Infolife is one background in the core book. They have since added additional layers.
Multiplied it. Yep.
Well, the same goes for uplifted animals. Like,
Yep.
Uplifted animals, they've just been adding a lot of...
Pigs.
That's one of the things that they add the most of. Like, yeah, pigs, whales, various sea creatures.
We now have our
Fucking
sea elves and our trolls.
There's a pretty cool picture in the book, actually, of a pig man.
Yeah, pigman. But yeah,
I did not see that picture.
They have also added, like, new Infolife backgrounds for, like, a software program that was designed to behave and have empathy for humans, or a software program that was designed to interface solely with machines that was accidentally or purposefully elevated to transhuman level intelligence and awareness, or an Infolife character that was accidentally assembled from various AIs and programs running on the mesh just by coincidence.
Now, was it this book that had the thing where it's like you could play a character who was someone else's fork, or was that just something we were talking about?
Yes, no. It in this, one of my favorite things is they talk a little bit more about like psychosurgery in this, and more of the obscure things that people can do. One of them is forking, which if you're familiar with Eclipse Phase, is you make an alpha fork or a beta fork or a different fork of yourself.
You make a
Your
copy
ego?
of your consciousness.
Yeah. And one of the things is that they express in this book is about generally the law is, it's not like 100% across the entire galaxy, but or the solar system, but it's like 0.1%, if that ego has changed 0.1%, then it's a different person. And then a completely different amount of laws like go into effect. Like you can, this person is a different person, and that makes them illegal because they don't have citizenship here. And a bunch of different things like that. That's pretty cool. And which they go into. But they also go into merging, which is putting two egos together.
Normally reserved for forks that want to remerge so that they have a set of shared experiences again, but not necessarily.
But you can do it with two different characters, and they give you the rules to merge your characters together. One of the problems, though, is that if the guy fails the psychosurgery check, you become a gamma fork immediately, which is essentially nothing. You're like
a glitch in the matrix.
You're a glitch, and you're not really anything.
You probably only have one of them.
First
like
session,
a
all the
computerized
characters
ghost.
merge.
I love the idea that you can merge two egos together to become one wholly different person. Like you could have a game of 3 characters who it's like 2 crazy people who just wanted to get together, and then they wanted to make a child, but they wanted that child to be a combination of their 2 actual physical selves or mental selves with all their memories, and then they just merge into one. So it's 2 people and then like their little child who's like the exact same as they are. I thought that'd be pretty interesting.
If the child has all of the thoughts and feelings of the parents, wouldn't it feel awkward to change its diapers?
It'd be super awkward.
And it would also be their age, so.
You could start a game where the first session everybody merges and then forks again, so that everybody's kind of the same, but a little different.
We're all good at shooting beam weapons now.
Everyone forks and then merges, and then they lose track of the merged unit, and everyone plays the forks.
Yeah,
There's one super being running around with all this knowledge and crap and shooting bazookas and knifing people. I don't know why bazooka knife is the first thing my brain goes to, but bazooka knife is where it is.
I didn't get too deep into
Sounds
the section where they talk about psychosurgery, but I kind of think I have to now.
Yeah.
Because it seems important.
And awesome.
Especially when you can merge 2 people's personalities.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to, well, there's 2 things. There's like muses that I wanted to talk about, and then the other thing is, it was really interesting reading about how they talk about the forking and the problem with it, because like I said, there are people who can like gouge you for money by like forcing a fork on you, and then you have another fork of yourself, and he is an illegal immigrant. He, doesn't have any citizenship. He doesn't have any money, and it is just basically illegal to have him because he doesn't have anything to his name, and then it's, and then you have to deal with that, and then they just gouge you for money for that stuff, or something like that. But, there's a bunch of different things associated with it. Some people, I love the idea that once an ego's, they differ by 0.1%, then they're a different person. I love that it's specific to that they can actually measure that, and I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it's like, there's no way, like when I first read about forks, I was like, oh, forks, you're not supposed to do that. Well, my character's not gonna, it's no big deal. But it's like, there's so much depth in that little thing that they talk about in the book that is, makes it like 10 times more fascinating.
Oh, yeah, like one of the other things that they mention is that forks can be legal up until like a certain amount of time. They can be used for temporary things, and then you just get rid of them, because before that fork hits that point of 0.1%, it acknowledges that it needs to disappear because it's still a part of you. But once it gets beyond that, it's like, no, I don't want to die.
Hey, isn't a backup just a glorified fork?
Yeah.
Yeah. But essentially, yeah. So you can have like forks, temporary forks, who are you, and they acknowledge that they need to go away soon. But that once you get past that point, that they become an actual human. Then
and they talk.
Interesting.
There's a little bit of content in the book too, where they talk about the fairly well covered in the core book stuff about continuity and in terms of like characters who can come back from the dead from a copy of their consciousness.
Mhm.
And like in the section about forks, they talk about how forking is completely banned in the Jovian Republic. And that was one of the things I found out about the Jovians that I found so fascinating, is that like it's not really clubbed over the head in the core book, but in Rimworld they really hammer home that the Jovians generally believe that if you transfer if you re-sleeve into a new morph, or if you are re-sleeved from a backup, that's no longer a living person. That's like a weird a machine programs to act like a dead person. And so it's like their idea about the continuity of a transhuman life is completely different. They believe that you have this one life that you were born with, and you probably would have to go out of the Jovian system to get any technology that would substantially enhance your one single human life. And if you transfer into another body for any reason, that is no longer you. That's a dead person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not. You could actually make a pretty solid argument, I think, for that.
Well, and I think that is why I never really got the. I mean, there is some horror in the setting and in the
Yeah, it's
the
supposed to be
game,
a
but
horror game.
but I never really thought of it as quite that horrible. But I think that one kind of realization really kind of drove it home for me. It's like, from a certain point of view, all of these characters, for all of their glory and relative immortality and super strength and body armor and X-ray vision, they're basically denying the fact that they're no longer. Well, they're basically in denial that they're no longer human beings.
And
And a
also,
lot of them acknowledge it, like the octopus people acknowledge that they're not human beings. But still.
when you think about it from your own perspective, it's kind of like the whole idea of, if you were to teleport, like if you were to be broken down into
Sure.
small particles and sent somewhere else, do you die? Like even if you witness someone else being recreated and acting exactly like they are, you don't know if that original person is still in control or if they're just in blackness forever.
Yeah, it could
now.
be anything.
Right, and that's one of the things that they touch upon too when they talk about like psychosurgery, is just that you can convince yourself as a character in the Eclipse Phase universe that when you go to a resleeving center and lay down in the jelly bath with your head on the whatever lotus petals that the brain reader looks like, and then you wake up and you can see your old body, you're still in the same place, you can convince yourself that transfer was perfect and that nothing about you is different. And you might be right. And you might not be right. Maybe somebody tampered with your brain, with your consciousness while it was going from one body to the next. But how can you, I feel like being revived from a backup, like, it would always bother you what happened.
Yeah, like
that
what could have
killed you.
happened?
Like, and the worst, of course, the really shattering thing is maybe that person didn't die. Maybe somehow my backup was triggered incorrectly, and I'm going to run into myself, and they're going to be pissed that there's another version of them
Yeah.
kicking around.
But see, this is also something that is, it's kind of commonplace. I mean, especially if you're going to embark into this game. I mean, I don't know, maybe I think it's assumed that people are kind of desensitized to it, but it is awesome that you can read that deep into it and play that kind of paranoia out.
They actually have multiple checks to do to make sure that doesn't actually happen.
Yeah.
There's like synchronicity tests and
alienation. I think is one related to getting along with a new body.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, in a story, anybody can change anything.
Sure, but basically, one realization that I came across was that and I used to ponder in a game, like how would you like make a mission where the player characters had to kill somebody and they had to make it stick. So it would be like you'd have to I guess you'd have to find some way to kill their ego and do some insanely dangerous hacking or infiltration to try to sabotage their backups or something.
Right, delete it or something.
Yeah, and it would be this side of impossible, but not impossible. But then I was thinking, like, it's almost a worse challenge to, like, completely extricate yourself from a situation, because if you've been careless with who's got your backups, or who might have got, like, if you ego cast from the corporation headquarters where you work, and you decide you want to quit, maybe they decide you don't quit. Maybe they decide you still work there, and they just revive a backup of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the point that I was getting on, is sort of when it doesn't take a lot to come across the realization that if your backup can be activated while you're still alive and you don't realize it, then when you die and that backup wakes up, that's maybe not you. Like, you maybe never actually experience any of that.
And I think that gets to the horror of the game.
Yeah. They I actually really I learned a lot about the horror of the game when I was reading about the Watts McCloud virus that makes you into a psi user. It's like I had originally thought, oh, it's just a thing that expands your mind, but no, it's like you literally have like an alien infestation in your brain that opens your brain up to things that you would not normally ever experience. And it didn't they stress fairly early on in the playing and async section that it's bad.
Yeah.
Like, most people hate it because it's terrible. Like, to the point that the way they described the links that some people go to is pretty extreme. Like, people will make a fork of themselves, and then they will chop parts of that fork out that they think are related to the Watts McCloud virus, and then they will merge that fork with a backup of themselves from before they got the virus, in order to try to make a version of themselves that doesn't have it, and then they'll kill their current body, so that there's no trace of it, and who knows if it works. And then also you carved part of your brain out with like a cold machine, and I'm just like, that, like, when they described it and I let it sink in, I'm like, that is so extreme that, like, just the idea that you could be infected by it has got to be terrifying for everybody.
If you want a lobotomy done right, you've got to do it yourself.
That is true.
They go
but
into
it's so scary.
They go into a fair bit of length in the core book about the lost generation, which are, in the core book at least, they're the main background that is, by definition, async characters. They're like the growth accelerated youth project that all went insane and became murderers and psychics.
They sure did.
But they didn't really talk a lot about the look and feel of life as an async of any stripe. And that was of those, like, playing an async, playing an AGI, playing Uplift, that was the one I found the most surprising. Was that it was, like, really... Yeah, like, it's not the sort
really
of thing...
different.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing, like, it is a disease, and in game mechanics terms, it gives you powers and drawbacks.
Yep.
But in story terms, it's basically like a disease that you have to live with. You have to it might give you some powers, but it's like that's because it's stretching out the inside of your mind like a fat guy in a tiny sweater.
Yeah.
It's pushing the boundaries of your thoughts to places you don't want them to go.
And I never really got the weight of that from the core rulebook. But when I was reading about it, I'm like, oh, that's nasty. I mean, I still want to play one because the Lost are extremely cool, but, like, it's still like you could make some pretty ridiculous characters who are just like after they described it, and they describe all the tribulations that these people go through. Like, making a character who actively wants to be an async and becomes infected with the virus, you're basically making a psychopath crazy person.
I was just perusing
so out there.
The book as we talked, and I was looking at the asyncs chapter, and I happened upon, like, list of Watts McCloud related mental disorders.
They're bad.
Suitable characters that have the psi characteristic. My favorite one, just right off the top of my head, is alien sensory disorder, which is a disorder wherein your character's mind attempts to use an alien sensory organ that the character's body does not have.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Oh man.
It's like I would have no idea without reading the book, like without perusing this book for the additional, mind expanding knowledge that this sort of stuff was even like possible in the setting. Like the setting is almost too big, and having something to focus your mind on helps a lot.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think this stuff that they added didn't really devalue anything that was said before, which sometimes it happens where it's like, well, we're not going to tell you about this, and we're going to make it kind of generic. When they expand on it, it wasn't in such a way that was really disappointing. It was actually just more of an informative expansion, I guess.
I didn't
Which I
read
liked.
almost anything about the asyncs, but is it a thing for people to try to get the disease so that they can do the things?
See, that's
that
what I
they
meant.
can
Like people who try to get infected by it, like those people have got to know. They mention it a little bit. Like there are ways to be infected by it. I don't remember all of them, but it's like it being like airborne or like there being an infectious strain of it is pretty rare in the first place. But there are ways. Like you could probably merge with somebody's gamma fork who has it and get it.
Well,
No
they also
sweat.
talk a lot about the struggle to keep your condition hidden so that people don't destroy you.
Yeah. Because there
So
are
I
people
get-
who just want asyncs dead because they are diseased there. I mean, they're affected by an alien disease.
I guess this begs to be said, but if you're gonna fork, you better fork safely.
Always practice safe forking.
When you said
Right.
if you're gonna fork, I knew that there was gonna be a joke coming, and I just couldn't quite beat you to it.
So I have mentioned before that we have a special treat for our listeners
Yeah.
/ viewers, depending on what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Ed, would you like to tell us about that?
Okay, so I have fiddled around in the guts of the LifePath character creation system a couple of times, and we were gonna just see if we can't roll a couple of bones and see what kind of monstrosity pops out.
All
Awesome.
right.
Basically, generate a LifePath character. Not 100% of the way, because I don't think that any of us really wants to sit around fiddling with any of the numbers at the end, but we'll get like the paths and the packages and the various events nailed down, and I think it's gonna be rad.
All right.
Nice.
I'm really hoping for this space clown theory.
I'm really hoping for a space clown with bazookas and
Okay.
knives.
And
If they don't
knives,
have bazookas
yes.
and knives, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Evil
I don't-
merman.
I want a
Thing-
Martian redneck.
They have a thing called an aptitude template, which we mentioned from the packages chapter, which is basically a list of aptitudes at various levels for various purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I were using the LifePath system, I would almost certainly not make the players roll random aptitude templates, but why not?
Mhm.
We're all here, we're all friends. So roll me 1d10 just for starters, and we'll decide what
I'll do it. We got a 7. What did we get, Ed? What did we
What did we
win? We got a 7.
I'm sorry. You are the techie aptitude template.
Oh, neat.
Yes. Make a note of it. You can choose or roll your native language. Roll it. I believe that will be.
Let's roll
let me
this.
just double check if it's a. This is deferring to the previous chapter, so I need to double check if it's a D10 or a D100. I imagine it's got to be a D100, right? Because it's got to be a lot of languages in the world, huh?
It's Eclipse Phase, man.
Okay, yeah.
Give us a
Roll a D100 for me.
Okay. Who's on it? Don't be shy.
Shake it, baby. You won't
I got
break
it.
Alrighty. Let's get Get it.
81.
All right, 81. That's not
81.
It's a pretty good
All
language,
right, 81.
probably.
You are a native Spanish speaker.
Oh, yes.
Como
Hey,
estas?
alright.
A language we understand.
Felicitaciones.
Thanks, Ed. Or native Spanish speak. Not native, actually. You're just
Nope. Not even slightly.
Nope. No, you're just around, and you happen to speak Spanish.
I'm okay.
So it's the next
now,
section, then you-
now we're gonna start doing the real part.
Nice.
Yeah,
Alright.
the real part.
Has gender
we are
been
gonna
decided
be.
yet?
I don't think that that's on here, but we can decide that last.
Okay, sure.
It's like transhuman. Gender is everything. You're everything at once.
Yeah, it's kind of meaningless.
Gender, roll a d20.
Unless you're a sex bot. Yeah, roll a d20.
All right. So.
All right. So to start with, we're gonna get youth paths. So somebody roll me a d10 and call it out because I'm looking at the chart now and not your dice.
Do it, Richard. Or Ebo.
Ebo, go ahead.
I'm watching. You guys go.
All right, I'll do it. 1d10. Dang it. I screwed it up. I got a 2.
All right. Wholesome youth.
All right.
Very
Wholesome.
lucky. Very lucky. Give me a d100.
Is this more youth path?
This
Do it,
is going to
Richard.
determine what
Right.
wholesome split youth and fractured youth just determines how many different packages you get and at what values. Wholesome youth is a single background package at 3 PP value.
So we got a 48.
48.
48. Well, 48 is Earthborn.
We're on Earth.
Yeah, which we should mention that this must be very common because this is between
Only
a
half.
1 and a 50.
Yeah.
We were going to be Earthborn.
Well,
So-
the idea in the setting
96
is
to
that
100 is
Good job,
created,
Richard.
not born.
the vast majority of the populace of the solar system lived on Earth, and the vast majority of them were killed by evil, basically the plot of Terminator.
So far we have
Alright.
a Spanish techie from Earth.
A Spanish techie from Earth.
He's going to space to take your job away.
All right, Earth childhood. Roll a d10 for me, and yell it from the rooftops.
1d10. I did it again.
Jesus.
Another 7.
7. Ew. Oh no.
Oh,
This
we're
isn't
poor.
any good. Precariat. Poverty just a step away. This means that the package that you get at 3 points is reinstated civilian casualty. This means that
Oh, you died.
that you did not have no money or no means to flee from Titans.
It does
Give
say
me-
we get to roll for our starting morph.
Yeah, give me an additional d10.
I'd love
I
to.
got this.
We get a 9.
Okay.
Well, you're very lucky because you get a flat morph to start with, and by lucky I
Unlucky,
mean
wouldn't we rather have a splicer?
well, flats have character. They help
Okay,
build
fair enough.
character.
I do have character.
Yeah, I played a flat.
Yeah, and
Um,
seriously, the hell were you
That's true.
owned? Alright, what's next, Ed?
I'm gonna say that we were killed off by the
And-
Titans.
Just again, just to be clear, that the reinstated package is basically at this point in the character's life, the fall is presumed not to have happened yet. You're just the equivalent in terms of poverty of a
Nice.
person with no body living in digital form.
Living in
Wonderful.
squalor.
Okay, now we're
Let's do
skipping
another
on
one.
to another step. All right, now we're gonna get a background event. Go for it. Roll me a percentiles. We might get something.
We're gonna get something.
We got a 92.
Oh, there you go. That's a thing.
Yeah.
92. A series of childhood injuries leaves you struggling to catch up physically. -5 somatic.
Nice. I joined the Crips.
You joined the Crips and got shot and were kicked out. Because you're not
So,
cool
like-
anymore.
I mean, crippled Crips.
Oh, that kind of Crips.
You
I
could
thought you meant the
have gotten
Crips, you know, like the gang.
Not with the T at the end.
could have gotten +5 to one of your aptitudes.
Good
You
thing we
also
didn't.
could have
Plus 10
gotten
to a skill.
bonus moxie, extra traits. Instead, you got whooped up on.
Badly.
Now you'd
All
think
right.
that this would come earlier. We're going to determine the starting age with a percentile.
Yes.
Roll a
Going
D.
for
Okay, roll a D10. Oh god, I did the wrong thing. There we go. I got a 5
was that on a 10 or a 100?
on a 10. Is it does? It's supposed to be on a 10.
100.
It's supposed to be on a 100, brah.
I
0
knew
for
that.
3.
I am terrible at this. 90.
Oh.
Oh, I was so hoping you'd get into that advanced age and you could lose some more
So
somatics for
close.
being too old. 90 is in your 70s.
You're in your 70s, but you might have a 30-year-old body.
Well, yeah, you
Alrighty.
can be strapping. All right. So now we're on to step 6, which is adult paths. You're gonna roll a D10. I found a typo in the book. It says D100 roll result, but it only gives you the results for up to
Yeah.
10.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
that's true.
Yeah, I see that.
Well,
What is this?
What'd you get?
I got an 8.
8.
Oh no. Oh good. This is good. You switched gears, which means that you might not be super poor forever.
Oh, okay.
You might get
all
a
right.
dip.
Yes.
What's the
So we're rolling a D10 to determine the new path that
We
you're going to be
used
setting
to
out
be-
on,
All right.
instead of being just a poor bum forever.
A
1d10.
poor Spanish speaker
New path. Here we go.
from Earth.
Hey, we're not number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6 would be indentured. We got a 9.
Oh.
That's Spacer.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Spacer.
Hey,
That's classy.
Spacer.
That's
Yeah.
quality.
Number
We're
6 is indentured, and I don't think that that's a new path specifically for this character.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I was thinking about not being a slave forever. Nah, that's denied.
Too bad.
Okay, Spacer, you're going to get a D10 roll to determine a focus package based on spacing interests.
Sure. Roll that beautiful beam footage, Richard.
Got it. 5.
Oh.
5, a pirate. A Spanish-speaking space pirate.
A 70-year-old Spanish-speaking space pirate. This character is awesome.
Whoa!
Oh my god.
Oh, that was pretty glorious.
Oh, nice.
Man, I want to play this guy. He brought himself
that's
out
a
of
one,
poverty through piracy. Space piracy.
That is a 1 PP pirate package. That was a mouthful.
So a triple P.
Kinda, yeah.
Pirate package points.
Alright.
Alright, what's next?
All right. Now we're gonna do a pre-fall life event. Give me
Oh,
another
good.
percentile die, and
You
we
got
will
this,
see
Lee.
how
All right, I got
crazy
this.
you guys get.
I rolled 100 exactly.
I do not believe that there are as many penalties to stats on this one as there were on the kids' events. You make some life decisions that prove prescient after the fall. Gain 20,000 credits.
We hoarded money through our piracy.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, bear in mind, this is the guy who went from being a ragamuffin to becoming a pirate, and this is all before the catastrophe that
Yeah.
nearly
So-
exterminated
This is
mankind.
the kind of guy that
Not
knows
a
that a penny
catastrophe.
saved is a penny earned. Because he didn't have very many pennies.
Until he
A
became a
penny
pirate.
saved is a penny stolen.
Oh,
Okay,
hey, that
he's
picture
the
that
one
Emo
that's
loves where the
beating
guy
up
bit off all those
everybody.
pictures.
If you're following, my favorite picture in the book is on page 63.
Yeah.
And, I
It's
love
horrifying.
it. It's
real messed up.
It's terrifying.
That guy's probably in async.
All right, now
This is
we're
what
gonna
happens
roll.
when you fork.
We're gonna roll another event for during the fall to
Yes.
see what awful things might have happened to you.
This is the good one. Who gets it?
Roll 19
doing
to
this?
20, I dare you. Oh, you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's it.
16!
16. All right, you exemplify yourself in destroying Titan machines. Take the Wrecker package as your focus package in step 9.
Yes.
Which is the next step. So that's good, I guess, that you didn't get infected with the virus.
Dude,
or
so
I
we
like
got,
how
we got
this
tired
table-
from being pirates,
The
like rich
Wrecker.
pirates, and we decided to store away all the money, and then we got trained in destroying Titan machines. That's awesome.
Okay, so the Wrecker gets demolitions. They get interest in Titan Tech, seeker weapons. Does it tell you how many PP it is?
I don't know. No.
I will have to
focus.
see
Aren't all
what.
focuses one?
They get
No.
their suggested motivations are explosions, survival for bonus, and negative titans. You're optimized for killing machines. You either excelled at fighting titan constructs during the fall, or you continue to hunt them down in the aftermath.
Awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
So what's
yeah,
next?
This one is a little tricky because you get focus and faction packages in step 9 at different point values.
Sure.
So we'll roll a d10 to determine your spread. Basically, it goes from you're going to get a faction package at 3 or 1, and a focus package at either 1, 3, or 5.
We got a 5.
We got a 5, so that's
5,
yeah.
so that's equally balanced. So
Oh, good. You didn't want a 1, 2, or a 6, or a 7.
A 3-point faction and a 3-point wrecker focus. So that'll save us some time in rolling for a focus. But we got to figure out what faction you're in. Now,
Ooh,
okay,
what
guys,
faction
this
are
is
we
where
in?
this thing is going to jump off of the rails. Right now, there was a very good chance. I remember this happened to me when I was more than once when I was fiddling with this. That during the fall events, you die, and so you roll randomly to determine what your new morph is. This is going to be a Spaniard of 70 robust years in a flat, living in a flat, and he's a pirate. So he is doing pretty well for himself. His body, on the other hand, is probably asking him to end it. I don't know if there's a chance to get a new morph at this point, but anyway, I'm just saying.
Let's do this thing.
If the faction is going to be bananas.
All right,
okay.
so
The faction subtable we're using is Spacer because his last focus was Spacer, so we're going to get a D10 roll.
I thought we had to roll for our focus package.
Nope,
If you roll a
The-
1 to 6, you stay on the path, and if you roll a 7, you switch gears.
remember the fall events said that you take Wrecker as your focus package in step 9?
Right. Okay. Right. Gotcha.
So it took that extra mathematics right out of our hands and just said, guess what? You're
good.
a Wrecker. You're
You've
a
already
super
played
pirate.
years, so here
So the
you
faction,
go.
huh?
So give me a faction, a D10 roll to determine who.
All right. Let's
I
do
was-
this. We got a 1.
Belter, not bad. Belter is a perfectly good place to be a pirate. Somehow this made sense. I feel like there's so many factions. Like Scum also would have been a perfectly good choice. There's some like Solarian. I can't imagine a Solarian pirate. You're like in a giant.
Here.
You can't live that close to the sun in a flat.
Wait, how did we end up getting a belter?
Do you see there's a spacer?
Spacer
faction package?
was the last
Oh.
focus package. Let me just double check to make sure I'm doing this right, because I think I might have.
In
used
table
the
9
last
too. I
one.
think you choose you either. Okay, never mind.
Okay, I think you're right. Okay.
On a 1, we roll on spacer again. And
Are we
then
skipping
we would need to
all
roll
of
one more
this
time.
9 section because of the Wrecker
Okay.
thing?
I think I'm skipping a section. So okay, so the Wrecker thing just happened.
yes.
We're going back to step 9.1. The Wrecker thing
Sure.
just happened. Now, what that says is that we're going to go to the faction subtable indicated by the faction path entry that you just determined. So we didn't do that. But
That's 1d10, right?
Isn't that what this 1 was?
okay, well,
So, it's just saying that our focus is Wrecker.
Okay, sure. So we need to another D10
what
for
I'm saying is
9
that
2.
I don't know what subtable that is on.
Sure. So we need
we're going
another
back to-
D10 for 9
Okay.
2.
I got it. I will suss this out. I just need to go back to 6.1. You can roll a D10 for 9.2. This is
Alright.
confusing, but I need to
Richard,
reference
get a D10 for
Yeah.
9 2.
You got it.
where Wrecker is.
Got a 5.
So our 9-1 is already set in stone.
It's already set.
Our
So
9
I
1
think
is Wrecker.
we continue without changing based
Yep.
on this roll.
And we stay a spacer for the
Well,
faction.
no. That's the thing, is that your faction is going to be based on Wrecker, since it's based on the last focus. So,
Isn't our our faction is
Yeah, this
based
is
on
where I'm getting a little
the
confused.
subtable
but-
use. I think that they copy pasted because to determine your focus package doesn't seem right.
Well, that's what it is. Is like Spacer was the first focus package that we received,
Sure.
but we just received the Wrecker focus package, which is the last one used. We didn't use a table to do so because of special
Oh.
caveat. But I don't remember where Wrecker is. I'm just gonna have to do a quick little scan here to try to figure out what a Wrecker even is.
They were. I thought of.
I think Evo had it up because he listed out their stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying what stats it has. I'm saying that I don't know which faction path it belongs to. So we could probably, I don't know.
Oh.
Just
The
dip back in there.
Smuggler faction path.
Yeah, I let it fall off the chains. Why don't
All
we?
right. So what say we
Record's a focus package, right?
yes.
Focus package.
I guess so.
Go to the faction subtable indicated
But
by
I'm
the
saying
focus.
we can just call it a belter and bail. I would be
I'm
fine
okay with
that.
Belter and Bale.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Sounds good.
It's as like okay, and so then we're gonna do. Can somebody who's taking a record count up how many package points have been spent?
7, 8, 9, 10.
Ah, perfect. You are supposed to have 10 package points at the end of this, or else you just get to roll for additional focus, faction, or customization packages at random.
Oh.
At 1 point each until they're all used up, which I think is kind of sad, because sometimes you want to get like a 3-pointer in there, but
Cool.
we also get a post-fall life event, so why don't we just
Oh
toss
boy.
one more D100 and we'll see what good, wonderful things can happen to you after the fall when you're a sleazy elderly pirate.
I got a
I hope
77.
this one kills us.
Oops, 77.
I love how big these tables are that they have to put them on 2 pages, by the way.
You
That
split
is
off an
so
alpha
awesome.
fork to handle an important situation, but it decides not to come back. Gain the errant fork trait.
trait.
I love
So
it.
we were just talking about forks getting things all messed up. The errant fork trait is exactly that. You make a fork, and then it leaves.
If you want to, if we want to suppose that that firewall is an aspect of this character's life, you can also roll a firewall event.
Yes.
Sure, let's do it. These are
Let's
fun
do
too.
it. Might as well.
You got this.
What do we
Oh,
got?
okay, I
What
got
do we
this.
got? Big money, no whammies.
99. I've been rolling big numbers.
Wowzers, let's see. You participate in a rescue op that cashes in on a sizable recovery bond. Gain 10,000 credits.
This guy's
You're rolling
rich.
in it. Oh, there's two. I guess I was confused by this. There's a gate crashing event and a firewall event. I guess I don't see exactly what the difference is.
I think you pick one, maybe.
So, is that all the major decisions? Or is there anything left?
Yeah,
I believe
think
that is.
so.
After that is gear and then combining stuff.
So we've ended
Yeah, it's
up with
pretty
a
much-
really, actually, enterprising dude here.
Yeah.
That is true.
He's actually
He is
doing
an
all right.
aging Spanish ex-pirate machine hunter who
Who has a lot of
fell
money.
against all odds in a flat after the fall.
And has random windfalls of money.
Do me
There
a
must
favor
be-
and roll a d10 somebody.
I got it.
Just out of morbid curiosity, I want to see how many randomly determined starting credits he gets.
8.
Wow, he gets 20,000 plus 1d10 times 1,000. So he's pretty
And that's-
flush with cash.
That's not including
Wow.
all the money that we got early.
Got a character who is
I know.
That's
Sitting on-
30,000.
likely, possibly
40,000.
60,000 credits. Minimum 50,000 credits. Yeah, that's pretty rich.
50,000 plus 8,000, right? So
Oh, and one thing I didn't mention before because I had completely forgotten about it, from the packages character creation method that I was absolutely enamored with when I saw it, they have an awesome list of gear packages for different purposes and their credit costs. So it's like this is like gear for a hacker. This is gear for a soldier. This is gear for a secret firewall agent. And it basically just gives you a list of stuff that you would want to have for that purpose and how much it costs. Which, even if you're using regular Eclipse Phase character creation, I would almost definitely use this. It's based on how much it costs in CP, so
Oh, nice.
So you can use it either way.
It's like
I hated doing
like
that conversion.
infiltrator gear cost 15 CP, gives you a bunch of stuff.
So for what it's worth, there is an
good.
optional story event that gives you one more thing that doesn't give you anything, but it just tweaks your character's background a tiny, tiny bit, or a lot, depending on how significant it is, like just before the game starts.
Yeah, let's have one. Lay one on me.
Let's do it.
Go ahead.
This will be funny. You unexpectedly make a close friend with someone from a rival or even hostile faction. 65.
You become best friends with somebody you pirated.
Oh my god, that would be excellent. They'd be like, I recognize you because you've had the same flat for 70 plus years.
There must be some serious pros to being an older Hispanic dude. You know, some things just work out.
So if anyone ever wants to play that character, you can add that to your pile. I actually would like to play this character. He sounds pretty awesome.
I'll post
I think
our
his name
Spanish
is
techie
Jorge.
in the show notes. So in
Okay.
case people want to review
That's
him.
Jocelyn.
Alright.
I think everyone is going to want to review him.
So that wasn't as painful as it might have otherwise been.
I was really shooting for the space clown that was gonna end up on a
Oh.
train in the space western.
I mean, the biggest the pitfall I find, this is to my taste, is that like when you're thinking about it, when I was first thinking about it, like the first table you roll on for youth paths, you start with whatever wholesome, split, and fractured youth, and it gives you like either one package of 3 points, 2 packages of 1 point each, or 3 packages of 1 point each, and you're like, I want that split stuff. I want to have a lot of stuff going on, but it's like, you really kind of do want at least a couple of packages that are more than 1 point.
Yeah.
And if you start with split youth in particular, the one where you start with 2 at level 1, it's like basically you're saving those up until the very end, where the way you resolve having too few package points spent is by rolling 1 point at a time, just giving yourself extra customizations and focuses until you're just like the ADD guy with with a little bit of every skill.
So that was a pretty fun little experiment.
Yeah, I like that.
I like
that.
Jorge.
Awesome.
I would make some more random characters for people without, and then subject them to those horrible people.
That was way faster than when I did it originally. I'll just tell you guys right now.
Yep, that could be a much longer process by rolling a lot of, other stuff.
You know
Also,
what?
doing the numbers.
We should put a sheet together if we ever try to do that again that just basically says like D10, D100, D10, D100. That way you can just record all of the stuff and then you can go back and see what it did. You know, instead of like
Mad Libs.
yeah, kind of. Except Mad Lib doesn't use dice, but yeah.
It should.
But yeah,
But just like if you had like a spreadsheet where you just knew what the die rolls were going to be, that would really speed up the process for the improv gamer that just showed up at your house. You say, all right, fill this sheet out, and then
Yeah,
we'll
if
look
we
it up.
ever do make one of those, we'll definitely share it with people. Because you guys deserve to have it as much as we do. If not
Unfortunately, some of the things add or subtract die rolls, but I mean, you could just roll like 50 D100s and 50 D10s and just assume you'll have enough going down the list.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah, that was
stuff.
quick and easy.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this is a I think you're almost obligated to get this if you want to do Eclipse Phase, because it really does sum a lot of things up that you would otherwise be left in the dark.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. It says the Transhuman is the player's guide, and I think that is very true. It has so much information in it for players. There's clearly a lot for GMs to learn, but
of course.
it is definitely a valuable book to at least peruse, to consider your character's options. Even if you made them the old way, primarily using the old book, it would still be a good book for you to at least browse, just so you can get a better handle on what's going on in Eclipse Phase.
Yeah.
I would absolutely.
I like
Yeah,
it.
I would definitely recommend this book.
Yeah.
Probably game specific. I would say that is non-specific. I would suggest this book before other Eclipse Phase books in terms of reading priority.
Yeah. It's especially good at the price point they have it.
It's got-
Yeah. And if you ever tried playing Eclipse Phase and you just had trouble because it was overwhelming, then this would be a good way to get back into it.
Roll up a
Yeah.
random Spanish pirate.
That's right.
Yes.
Sweet.
Well,
Well,
I think that's it for us, unless we
Yeah,
have anything
definitely.
else.
Yeah, make sure to
non-satisfied.
check us out at houserule.com. You can Twitter us at houserule, and you can send us an email. That's at houserulepodcast@gmail.com.
I also might be doing a live stream of this tomorrow of making our characters for the actual Eclipse Phase. That's going to be ongoing. And it's going to be kind of a mishmash of things going on of world building and character creation, if they still want to.
Yeah, we'll be updating the
I
Twitter
do.
with any live stream things, and so you can hop on and check us out. And yeah,
you can watch us fumble around in the dark.
that'll be awesome.
We'll be awesome.
All right.
Later.
Catch you
Like I
guys.
said, bye.
Adios.
As Word is.